Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a deeply provocative and honestly fascinating thesis, one that asks us to look at the night sky and the billionaires racing toward it in a completely different way. You see, the core idea we're analyzing today argues that modern space exploration has evolved way beyond just being a purely scientific endeavor. According to this perspective, it's actually transformed into a highly structured, godless religion. It's a really compelling view that weaves together modern finance, hidden history, ancient theology, and pop science. So let's get right into it. To really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of what we're dealing with here, consider this staggering data point from the source. On June 13th, 2026, SpaceX had the largest IPO in world history. They hit a valuation of $1.777 trillion, generating $75 billion in a single day and literally cementing Elon Musk as the world's first trillionaire. But here's the crazy comparison. NASA, which has been running since 1958, spent roughly $900 billion over 68 years. Musk dwarfed NASA's entire historical budget in a matter of days. And when the world watches these rocket launches today, they sit in hushed silence, eyes glued to the sky in a singular direction. The source points out that it looks almost identical to a congregation sitting in a place of worship. But what is the underlying belief system driving this massive industry? Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the ideology of rockets, trace the ancient quest to conquer the skies, and then examine the proofs of space as a modern religion. After that, we'll identify its scripture and clergy before concluding with some really striking theological parallels.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the ideology behind rockets.
You know, to truly understand the present, we gotta look back at the rather dark foundation of the modern space industry. Let's trace this lineage. The source highlights a continuous thread of human ambition here. It starts way back in ancient Babylon with King Nimrod's tower, leaps forward to the end of World War II in 1945, moves to the founding of NASA in 1958, and culminates in today's SpaceX era. The absolutely crucial point here is that the foundation of our modern push into the cosmos wasn't just built on pure, innocent scientific curiosity. History shows us that right as World War II wrapped up, the U.S. initiated a secret mission called Operation Paperclip. The goal? To bring top Nazi scientists over to America, essentially shielding them from war crimes. The key figure in all this was Wernher von Braun, an SS major and the absolute mastermind behind the V-2 rocket that bombed London. It's a grim reality that von Braun used slave labor from concentration camps to build those rockets, which ended up costing the lives of over 10,000 forced laborers. Yet, America brought him over, and he literally became the founding father of NASA. So today, we see these shiny, incredible rockets, but the origin of this technology is steeped in a highly controversial ideology.
Moving right along to Section 2, the quest to conquer skies.
Now, the source draws this absolutely fascinating parallel between modern aerospace ambitions and the ancient story of King Nimrod of Babylon. You might remember Nimrod famously built the Tower of Babel to reach the heavens and challenge the creator. Historical accounts even suggest he tied eagles to a box to fly into the sky. Basically, the ancient version of a rocket, right? Well, today we use actual rockets to leave Earth. And this really forces us to consider a question posed by the source. Is our modern desire to become a multi-planetary species just a technological evolution of Nimrod's ancient arrogance, a deep-seated desire to escape the creator's domain? Which brings us to Section 3, Space as a Modern Religion. This brings us to the absolute core of the explainer. The idea that space is no longer just a metaphor for discovery, it is officially functioning as a documented religion. To back up this bold claim, the source lays out three distinct proofs. First, the existence of NASA chaplains. Second, the heavy integration of Greek mythology into space missions. And third, the rise of secular humanist congregations called Sunday assemblies. Let's break these down real quick to see exactly how a formalized religious structure has developed around space. Okay, proof number 1. Did you know NASA formally employs chaplains? It's true. And why? Because astronauts often undergo an intense spiritual transformation up in space. This was documented back in 1987 as the overview effect. NASA formally prepares its astronauts for this massive cognitive shift. But here's the catch the source points out. While traditional religions have a word for this, like the Islamic concept of tafakkur, which means reflecting on God's greatness through his creation, notice how the overview effect deliberately removes any mention of God. Instead, that intense spiritual reverence is redirected toward an empty cosmos, or the universe. And that builds right into the second proof.
Just look at the names of our greatest scientific missions: Apollo, Artemis, Mercury, Saturn. The source argues it's no coincidence that Wernher von Braun and the original NASA founders had minds completely steeped in Greco-Roman mythology. Naming these missions wasn't random at all. It acts as a deliberate, calculated step to conceptually hand the skies over to mythological gods, further separating the realm of space from the concept of a singular creator.
Then we've got the third proof, and this one is perhaps the most literal. It's called the Sunday Assembly. Established in London back in 2013, today there are over 400 chapters across 8 different countries. These essentially act as godless congregations for secular humanists. People literally gather every Sunday to sing songs, read passages from science textbooks with total religious reverence, and essentially worship the wonders of the cosmos. According to the source, it is, by definition, an organized religion where space serves as the central theology. All right, on to Section 4, Scripture, Clergy, and Messiah. So as the source points out, every established religion kind of needs 3 main pillars, and this space religion has filled all 3 roles perfectly. Just notice how seamlessly traditional religious roles map onto modern space culture. The foundational text, or scripture, becomes the concept of the cosmos. The role of the clergy, the authority figure who tells the congregation what to believe, well, that's filled by pop scientists like Neil deGrasse Tyson. And the role of the Messiah, the figure promising salvation, is occupied by Elon Musk. Let's look at their own words to understand why the source makes this connection.
Let's look at the scripture first. Back in 1980, astronomer Carl Sagan hosted a massive PBS television show called Cosmos, viewed by over 500 million people worldwide. And the very first line of the show was, "The cosmos is all that is, or was, or ever will be." The source highlights that this is not merely a scientific statement. It is a profound theological statement. It elevated the universe to the exact position traditionally held by a creator, making it sublime and worthy of reverence. It became the foundational scripture of this whole new ideology.
Next up, the clergy. Look at figures like NASA director and prominent media personality Neil deGrasse Tyson. When he speaks, the world listens, right? Well, in his own words, Tyson states, "God is an ever-receding pocket of scientific ignorance." The source views figures like Tyson as the clergy of this movement, dictating the belief system, actively pushing the concept of a creator completely out of the picture as science advances, and basically instructing the godless congregation on exactly how to think.
And finally, the Messiah. Every religion has a figure who offers salvation and liberation. And Elon Musk's core message is exactly that. Humanity must become multi-planetary or face extinction. He is actively asking for followers' investments in faith, promising to save humanity by taking us to Mars. Because as the source argues, since this space religion lacks any traditional concept of the afterlife, salvation absolutely must be physical. It literally has to be a backup civilization on another planet.
Which honestly leads us to a pretty profound question. If the Earth was created perfectly for us, why is the ultimate goal to flee from it? Is escaping Earth the ultimate salvation, or is it the ultimate arrogance? This question perfectly bridges the modern ambitions of SpaceX with the really heavy eschatological concepts we're about to unpack. And that brings us to our final section, Section 5, Theological Parallels and Conclusions. In this final section, the source draws some incredibly direct lines between modern rocket launches and specific Islamic eschatology. That's the theology of the end times. There is a really striking parallel here to a narrative from a Sahih Muslim hadith regarding Ya'juj and Ma'juj, also known as Gog and Magog. In the tradition, in a height of absolute arrogance, they shoot arrows into the sky, which return covered in blood, leading them to falsely claim they've killed the inhabitants of heaven. Now compare this with modern spacecraft. Rockets are launched into the void, returning not with literal blood, but with the ideological concept of a completely empty, godless universe. According to this source, the result is exactly the same. Humanity views the heavens as totally devoid of a creator.
And this brings everything right back to King Nimrod. Nimrod, the most powerful man in the ancient world who built a tower to challenge the heavens, was ultimately destroyed by a mere mosquito. So the thematic conclusion the source presents is incredibly clear. While our technology has evolved immensely, from eagles tied to boxes all the way to reusable Falcon 9 rockets, human arrogance hasn't changed one bit. We are still attempting to reach the heavens just to prove we can survive entirely without the creator.
Now, to counter this whole narrative of this space religion, the source highlights a 1400-year-old verse from the Quran. "O company of jinn and mankind, if you are able to pass beyond the regions of the heavens and the earth, then pass. You will not pass except by authority." This verse stands as the ultimate theological challenge to the ideology driving modern space exploration.
It's a powerful reminder that no matter how advanced our rockets get, we are still completely bound by the limits set by the Creator.
So, what does this all mean for us? The crucial point we are left to ponder from this entire analysis is this. The next time a massive rocket counts down from 10 to 1 and billions of people hold their breath staring into the sky, are we simply witnessing scientific progress, or are we actually participating in the grand rituals of a new, godless religion? It definitely changes how you look at the stars, doesn't it? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity as much as it has mine. Keep questioning and keep learning.